Quick favor before we start. Tap subscribe. It helps more than you think. The place card was the first hit. My name, Elena Ward, in graceful calligraphy. Under it, in a different hand, someone had written, Mother by obligation. My stomach tightened like I was back on a ruck march, breathing through a stitch. 19 years. I raised Nora alone after her father bailed when she was 5 months old. Diapers, midnight fevers, double shifts, overtime, school pickups, scraped knees. All me. And here I was, wedged into a linen-draped chair at a luxury venue on the edge of Lake Tahoe, surrounded by people who'd never set foot in the kind of garage where I've changed my own brake pads. Drop your city in the comments and we'll keep moving. At the family table, I was a stranger among polished suits and perfect manicures. A woman on the groom's side, an aunt maybe, flicked her eyes at my boots, leaned into her husband, whispered, and they shared a private laugh. Across the table, a guy in a tech bro vest didn't bother hiding his smirk when he saw me lingering on the card too long. I felt like I'd walked into a country club costume party and missed the memo. 2 seats down, a younger guy snorted. Guess they had to invite the maintenance lady, he muttered, thinking I couldn't hear. I didn't give him the satisfaction. I stood, pushed my chair back slow and even. I don't do scenes. I do exits. Across the room, Nora stood with her new in-laws, glowing white silk, soft waves in her hair, that easy smile I'd die to protect. They were toasting something, laughing like the world was perfectly aligned. Maybe it was. Maybe I really didn't fit here anymore. Maybe my chapter ended and I hadn't turned the page. I turned to leave. No goodbyes. I wasn't going to cry for this room. Not today. Then the music cut. A mic crackled. Conversation snapped off like a switch. Nora stood barefoot in the center of the floor, heels dangling from one hand, gripping her fiancé's hand with the other. Caleb Whitfield, and not gently. I'm done, she said into the mic. Her voice didn't tremble. We're leaving. A few guests laughed, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. She dropped Caleb's hand, stepped off the floor and walked straight for me. The DJ froze over his laptop. Caleb blinked like someone slapped him awake. Nora took my arm. Let's go. Nora, what the hell? I'll explain in the car. We moved through that glossy venue, flower petals, spilled champagne, whispers rising and falling. No one stopped her. She didn't look back. Neither did I. 40 quiet minutes. Just the road, Nora's bare feet tapping the pedals, the sigh of silk every time she shifted. Her makeup was still perfect, barely smudged, but her jaw was clenched like she was holding words between her teeth. Her phone kept feeding the wedding playlist through the car speakers. I reached over and killed it. No argument. She took the Sacramento exit without asking me for directions. My place is nothing fancy. 1-story, tired fence, paint sun-faded, but the mortgage is mine and the lights stay on. It's home. She parked at the curb and sat there, hands locked on the wheel like she was bracing for impact. Finally she exhaled. I saw the card before you did, she said, staring ahead. Last night at the rehearsal. It was already on the table. And you still let today happen? I had to be sure, she said. I needed to see if they'd actually go through with it. They did. She opened her clutch, pulled her phone, unlocked it. No hesitation. Watch. She held it between us and hit play. Clean audio, too clean. Graham Whitfield, the groom's father, stood at the bar, tie loose, scotch in hand. Come on, he scoffed to a cluster of relatives. She's a glorified handyman. I looked up her place on Street View, barely a notch above subsidized housing. Someone off camera laughed. Then the groom's mother cut in, voice cool, brittle. Don't be cruel. She's a custodian, not a mechanic. Use her proper title. More laughter. The camera panned and there was Caleb Whitfield, grinning. Can't wait to see her face when she figures out she could have had her real dad walk her down the aisle, he said. You know, the one who doesn't mop floors for a living. The video ended. My heartbeat didn't. I leaned back, staring at the dark street. All I could think was, he knew. They all knew. And they smiled in my face. Her real dad, I muttered. That man bailed before she even had teeth. Nora turned toward me, expression steady. I told them he was gone. I told them who raised me. They didn't care. Why didn't you tell me before today? My voice cracked. I hated that it did. Hate losing control in front of an audience, even if it's just my kid. In the army we breathe, assess, act. But this wasn't a training lane. Because this wasn't just about me or you, she said. It was about seeing people for who they are. I needed proof. So you married him just to catch them slipping? I didn't marry him. She popped the glove box, pulled a folded manila envelope and dropped it on my lap. Never signed the prenup. Had my legal team review it, revise it, send a counter. They ignored it. So it's invalid. I opened the envelope. Filings, notarized letters, timestamps. Airtight. All in her name. You had a lawyer? I've had one since February. Family counsel. Confidential. How long have you been planning this? She looked at me like I'd asked whether water was wet. Since I started building something worth protecting. What does that mean? She unlocked her phone, tapped, turned the screen. A clean, professional homepage with her headshot. Aurelia Diagnostics. Predictive screening for preventive care. That's your company? I'm co-founder. Series C. Valuations around 80 million. She paused. We rebranded from Art Era last quarter. I blinked. My daughter, who used to build robots out of toaster parts, was now the kind of person investors calendar stock. And I'd had no idea. They thought they were marrying up, she said. And you let them think that. Damn right I did. She stepped out barefoot into the gravel. I followed. Inside, my place smelled like old leather and dust. She set her shoes by the door, same spot as high school, and headed to the kitchen. 2 beers. She slid one to me, sat, peeled her label like she had all the time in the world. Her eyes, though, stormfront steady. From her overnight bag she pulled a thicker, heavier folder and dropped it on the table. Dull slap. Open it. Inside. Stock certificates, purchase records, signed agreements. The first header read Saltwind Holdings LLC. The rest matched. Nevada here, Delaware there. Clean lines. Invisible money. What is this? I trust, she said, leaning in on her elbows. I've been buying into Whitfield MedChain Group since last year. You bought stock in Caleb's family business? No, she said. I bought control. My mouth went dry. How much? 37%. As of last week. I scanned the documents again. Tight structure. Bulletproof paper trail. That's how they didn't see you coming, I said. She nodded. They figured I was a biotech nerd who'd play along in their world. They didn't realize I already had mine. I used dividends from Aurelia, and the inheritance Grandma left me. Remember when I asked you to help open that trust 2 years ago? Yeah. That's when it started. I eased the papers back and leaned in my chair. You've been sitting on this through the engagement. I wasn't sitting, Nora said. I was digging. She pulled a black leather folder, the courtroom kind, out of her bag. Inside. Spreadsheets, redlined contracts, internal emails. He laid them out like a puzzle. Inventory discrepancy report. They claimed 20,000 units lost last quarter. It's closer to 70. Vendor list. Check VectorSync procurement. They're overcharging Whitfield MedChain by 15%. Caleb's uncle. FDA compliance report, falsified. I had an independent audit rerun. I don't have a degree, but I know the smell of rot. This was a bonfire. They're not just sloppy, she said, sliding me a page. They're reckless. When this goes public, they'll glow in the dark. This is war, I said. Exactly. She drew 3 final documents. Signed proxy agreements, 2 minority shareholders, 1 independent director, Alan Carter. They've held about 12% together. They're done watching the Whitfields treat the company like a plaything. I've been stitching quorum for months. Alan's in, if I can tip it. With their support, Nora added, I can call an emergency executive vote and win. And what do you need me for? She produced 1 more sheet. Plain. Simple. Proxy authorization. I'm transferring my vote to you. I stared. What? I'll remain a stakeholder. You'll hold the voting rights. Temporary. Optics. If I swing the axe, they'll say I'm a bitter ex. If they have to answer to you, they choke on it. The woman they called a custodian, I said. A glorified handyman. She nodded. Let them gag. Why me, Nora? You built the plan. You finish it. I will, she said. But this phase is yours. She leaned closer, eyes steady. They mocked the woman who kept the lights on with double shifts. The woman who ate leftover spaghetti so her kid could buy robotics kits. They sneered in country club whispers. Now she's going to chair their board meeting. My hands were on the table shaking, not from fear. From something older. Pride. Rage. Both. You really want me at that table? At the head of it? You sure? He smiled, not like a daughter. Like a commander handing final orders. I've never been more sure. I picked up the pen and signed. She closed the folder, slid it into her bag like the earth hadn't just tilted. Meeting's Thursday, she said. Be ready. Wear a real suit this time. I don't own a real suit. You will. She finished her beer and dropped the bottle in the sink with a clean clank, then disappeared into the spare room like she still lived here. I stayed with the papers spread in front of me, realizing how far she'd gone, not with tears or hugs but with leverage. My kid didn't come home to be saved. She came home to light the match. Thursday morning, Nora tossed me a charcoal suit still in plastic. Tailored. You'll thank me later. It felt too crisp. I'm used to canvas and work boots, plate carriers and field uniforms. But I put it on, laced the leather shoes, buttoned the jacket. In the mirror I didn't see their caricature. I saw the woman they shouldn't have underestimated. We walked into Whitfield MedChain Group headquarters at 0904, 4 minutes after the board meeting started. Nora didn't knock. She pushed through frosted glass like she owned the place. 12 heads turned over a mahogany table set like a product launch, not a firing line. Graham Whitfield sat at the head in a suit worth more than my first car. He stood when he saw us. You're not allowed in here, he snapped. Read the bylaws, Nora said, unblinking. This is a closed executive session. I am an executive. She tipped her chin at me. So is my proxy. He looked like he'd swallowed a thumbtack. You're bluffing. Nora opened her briefcase, produced a single document. Filed Monday. Verified by the corporate secretary. You were copied. State stamp. Legal transfer of proxy authority. My name in bold at the top. At the far end, a woman with a silver necklace flipped through her agenda. Ellen Carter lifted her eyes. It's valid, Graham. I saw it come through. He sat. Jaw tight. Nora turned to the room. New business. Emergency item. She placed her palms flat on the table, voice level. I call for an executive vote. Agenda item. Breach of compliance protocol, financial misconduct, negligent governance. Half the table stiffened. Graham Whitfield let out a single bitter laugh. You think you can walk in here and stage a coup? I don't think, Nora said. I know. She stepped forward, opened her folder and handed out copies like pop quizzes. No drama, just data. Vendor fraud through VectorSync procurement tied to your brother. Overbilled by roughly $1.3 million across 4 quarters. Internal losses misstated in your filings. Falsified FDA documentation submitted last October to push a warehouse expansion. One director flipped pages fast. Another rubbed his temples. Someone whispered, Jesus. This is baseless, Graham snapped. Then prove it, Nora said. Or vote to audit. Graham rose again. This company's been in our family 50 years. We built it from nothing. Your legacy ended when you started funneling fake invoices through shells, she said, flat as steel. You didn't build this. You gutted it. Caleb finally spoke, voice soft. Nora, it doesn't have to get ugly. You already made it ugly. Silence settled. Nora nodded toward me. My proxy, Elena Ward, is prepared to call the vote, along with shareholders Ellen Carter, Joseph Nunez and Kimberly Rice. Ellen, silver necklace, sharp eyes, raised her hand. Confirmed. Joseph and Kimberly followed. Together that's 53%, Nora said. Graham's face drained. He glanced at his brother Walter and at Caleb. Both were stone still. I moved to remove Graham Whitfield, Walter Whitfield and Caleb Whitfield from executive authority, effective immediately, Nora said. I stood. Second. Ellen took the chair. All in favor? Hands rose. 5, 6, 7, 8. Enough. Motion carries. You can't do this, Graham rasped. Nora leaned across the table, calm as ever. You handed me your trust. I used it. You handed me your arrogance. I weaponized it. Graham dropped back into his seat. Caleb stared at the wood grain like it might save him. Ellen cleared her throat. Final order of business. Interim board chair appointment. Candidate, Elena Ward. Nora tipped her chin. Stand. I did. Votes. Ellen asked. Same 8 hands. Motion passed. Congratulations, Chair Ward. The room tilted for a heartbeat. I held steady. No smile. No speech. Just a single nod before I sat. Graham shoved back and stormed out. Walter followed. Caleb hesitated. Nora met his eyes. This was never about love. He blinked. What? It was about legacy. We left without a parade. Just heels on tile and a heavy door swinging shut. In the lobby, Nora finally exhaled, shoulders dropping for a second. I said nothing. He grinned. Nice suit. Nice takedown. Sun hit us in the parking lot. I squinted up and thought, what just happened? 3 weeks ago I had grease under my nails. Now I was chairing a company I hadn't even known I was walking toward. Nora popped the trunk, tossed her briefcase like it was any Tuesday. We slid into the car. The engine purred. AC clicked on. You okay? She asked. Yeah. Just wrapping my head around it. She laughed under her breath. I've been building this for years. You jumped in 3 days ago and handled it like a pro. I didn't feel like a pro. I felt like the soldier who once changed uniforms in a gas station bathroom between shifts because being 5 minutes late wasn't an option. You know what I was thinking in there? I said. While they sat around that table, I kept seeing my hands back in the motor pool, wiping oil with the same shop towel all week. Nora didn't interrupt. Day shifts keeping beat-up vehicles alive, night shifts doing mall maintenance to keep the lights on for us. I've stood so long on concrete I fell asleep in a supply closet once. I missed your 2nd grade recital because I was mopping a food court spill. She reached over, set her hand on mine for a beat. Nothing soft about it. Steady, grounding like a hand on a shoulder before a door gets kicked in. Solid, she said. You did what you had to. I nodded. Wasn't sure you even noticed. I noticed everything. And I believed her. We pulled into the driveway a little after noon. The sun was brutal. I shrugged off the blazer and slung it over my shoulder. Nora went straight to the kitchen, filled 2 glasses with lemonade like she hadn't just executed a hostile boardroom takedown. Same chair as a few nights ago. Same house. Different world. She set a glass in front of me and slid a slim legal-size envelope onto the table. What now? Final paperwork for the trust transfer, she said. It moves Whitfield MedChain into a public equity fund with healthcare access clauses. We keep a majority stake under the nonprofit wing, but it locks out personal profiteering. You and I, she uncapped a pen, are the final co-signers. I opened the folder. Ward Health Equity Public Trust. Her name is founder. Mine is interim chair. You sure you want this? Yeah. This wasn't about revenge, Mom. It's about flipping the system that tried to swallow us. For a second, all I saw was the little girl in overalls who used to sit under the counter at the shop, eating crackers while I stripped a brake line. Remember prom night? I asked. Your zipper jammed and I was outside fixing some stranger's radiator. She laughed. You were 15 minutes late and still made it to pictures. I never charged him. Didn't even get his name, just saw steam and a crying kid in the back seat. I remember, she said. And I remember thinking someday I'm going to fix things for him too. I blinked hard and looked down. She reached under the table, pulled a small black garment bag, unzipped it enough to show a lighter gray suit, finer fabric, slim cut. That's for the next meeting. Custom. I'm not living in suits, Nora. She set the bag on the back of my chair, standing behind me like a shadow. You're not standing behind me anymore, she said. You're standing beside me. I couldn't turn around. Throat locked. Eyes hot. I pressed a knuckle to the corner like there was grit there. We both knew there wasn't. He let me have the moment. A few minutes later we sat side by side and signed. No lawyer in the room. A board witness on Zoom said 3 words and disappeared. When the e-signature flashed green, I leaned back. Done. We'd handed the Whitfield machine into a trust built for medical access, compliance, transparency, things that actually mean something. It didn't feel like theft. It felt like reclamation. 2 weeks later, the knock came just after 2300. I was half asleep on the couch, a rerun of a restoration show humming in the background, Ginger ale sweating on a coaster. Not loud. Firm. Too firm for a neighbor. Too unsure for a cop. I opened the door in sweatpants and a faded tee. Caleb stood there, wrinkled shirt, crooked tie, hair a mess. Eyes bloodshot, jaw rough with stubble, hands twitchy. "Ms. Ward," he started, voice low. "Please. 5 minutes. I need to talk to Nora." I leaned into the frame, arms crossed. "You called me a prop," I said. "Now you're on my porch asking for mercy." His face twisted. "It wasn't like that. I didn't mean it. I was drunk, I was trying to save face." "That's all you ever tried to save." He opened his mouth again. I stepped out and dragged the door almost closed behind me, blocking the sight line inside. "Let me guess," I said. "Daddy's frozen out. Board voted in an outsider. Family name circling the drain. Now you're here with your tail tucked, hoping Nora's got a patch kit." He dropped his head. "I didn't know she'd actually go through with it." "That's your problem," I said. "You never thought she could go through with anything. You thought she needed you." His eyes flicked to the door. "Can I at least talk to her?" I didn't answer. Soft steps on hardwood behind me. Nora's voice, calm. "It's okay." I stepped aside. She came out barefoot, leggings, hoodie, hair pulled back. No makeup. No performance. She didn't go to him. She stood beside me, arms crossed. Eyes clear, not angry, just done. "You don't get to spin this," she said. "Not here. Not now." He nodded too fast. I know, I panicked. "My dad, he's blaming me. Says I should have stopped you. Says I embarrassed the family." "Your dad embarrassed himself. You just followed his lead," Nora said. He swallowed. "I didn't sign off on that card, I swear." "But you didn't speak up either." "I thought it was a joke, a bad one." "You laughed," she cut in. "You stood there while your mother called me the custodian's kid and your father called my mom a handyman's charity case. You could have stopped it. You didn't." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a wrinkled sheet of paper. "I wrote something. I know it won't fix." "I don't want an apology," she said. "I want space." She took a white envelope from her hoodie pocket and held it out. He hesitated. "What is it?" "Cease and desist. Covers personal contact, professional involvement, and any attempt to interfere with the transition." He stared like it was radioactive. "You're serving me?" "No. I'm protecting myself and my company. This isn't personal. It's structural." He finally took it, hands shaking. I thought we had something real." "I did too," Nora said. "Until I realized the only thing real between us was your need to be rescued." He flinched. "You always needed someone to save you from yourself," she added. "I stopped applying for the job." He looked like he might cry, but nothing came. Just that stunned quiet men get when they finally see the wreckage they helped build and understand no one's coming to clean it up. He backed down the steps, didn't say goodbye, didn't try again. The envelope hung limp in his fingers as he crossed to a silver car far nicer than a man fresh from a family ouster should be driving. He pulled away without headlights, like the dark could hide him. Nora didn't speak until the taillights were gone. Then she turned and walked inside. I followed. In the kitchen, she poured a glass of water. Her hand was steady. Her jaw was set. "You could?" I asked. She nodded. "He talked like he was planning our future. It was always just his. You did the right thing." "I know. Want to talk about it?" "Nope. That was that." She went to bed. I stayed in the kitchen a while, staring at the other envelope, the wrinkled note he tried to hand her like a get-out-of-jail-free card. He'd folded it a dozen times, like he kept changing his mind. I dropped it in the trash where it belonged. A week after Caleb left my porch, Nora and I stood under a rented pop-up in Oak Ridge Park, 3 blocks from the duplex we used to share back when I stretched $30 across groceries and gas. The place was packed. Kids, strollers, elders from the assisted living home. A big blue banner read Ward Health Access Fund. Affordable care, real equity. 2 tables were stacked with refurbished glucose monitors, blood pressure cuffs, and preloaded tablets with health literacy software. All paid for by Whitfield MedChain's new nonprofit arm, Our Arm. We took the first slice of Q2 dividends and pushed it straight into supplies for clinics in neighborhoods like this, places full of survivors who rarely got tools to thrive. Nora took the mic first. White blouse, sleeves rolled, sunglasses on her head. She looked like she belonged because she did. Today isn't about headlines or handouts, she said, voice carrying across the park. It's about closing gaps that never should have existed. Heads nodded. A few claps. Teenagers at the court paused their game to listen. He kept it clean and short. She always lands the plane. And before any of this could happen, she added, someone worked 3 shifts to keep the lights on. Someone taught me that showing up matters more than any title. She turned and pointed at me. This is the woman who made all of this possible. My stomach flipped. I'm not built for podiums, but I stepped up. The mic felt too small in my hand. I don't know much about corporate, I said. Still don't. I don't speak in acronyms. But I know how to show up. I know how to keep a unit moving, fix what's broken, and do the unglamorous work every day. Turns out that's enough to build something that matters. A few laughs, real applause. I kept it short and got off the mic before I made it weird. Afterward, 3 teens came up, 17 maybe younger. A girl with a buzz cut and a hoodie that read future engineer looked me in the eye. I've never seen someone like me at a board table before. I just nodded. Another kid asked for a picture. He pulled out a beat-up Android with a cracked screen. Felt right. Later, a Channel 8 crew aired a segment. Army vet mom becomes corporate chair. They misspelled my last name in the churn. Didn't bother me. I watched from a folding chair outside the rec center while Nora gave her interview. Calm, collected, never performative. Just herself. When the last table was packed and the volunteers drove off, it was just the 2 of us left in the shade. Nora sat beside me, handed over a small white envelope and said nothing. I opened it. Inside, a single key and a folded deed, property title, full transfer, both our names. What's this? New house, she said. 3-bedroom, corner lot, short drive from here. My throat tightened. Not repayment, she added, cutting me off. Just an upgrade for both of us. I looked down at the key. Light in my palm, heavy everywhere else. Are we moving? We don't have to, she shrugged. But it's there if we want it. We stayed there a while, listening to wind and the occasional car. No rush. No big crescendo. Just 2 people who'd spent a long time building from bedrock, finally allowed to stand still. It felt earned. 1 year later, I sat front row in a glass-walled auditorium at UC Davis. Dark tailored coat, shoes that actually matched. Stage lights washed the room. Rows of business students scribbled like their grades depended on it. Nora stood at the podium in a navy blazer, hair pulled back. No flash, just authority. Same calm presence that iced a boardroom. Same steady gait she carried into the fire and never blinked. Her keynote, strategic patience. Winning by watching. Timing. Leverage. Controlling narrative. Words for things I'd learned by necessity. Breathe, assess, act. During Q&A, someone asked, who influenced your approach the most when you were starting out? He didn't hesitate. I learned business from a woman who never went to college, she said. She taught me cost, value, and return better than any textbook. Her eyes found me. Applause rolled through the seats. A few students turned to see who I was. I didn't wave. Just nodded once, hands folded, stone still. Afterward, I slipped out the side doors while professors swarmed her with cards and coffee invites. The valet stand churned. Kids with startup dreams handing over Toyotas they hadn't washed in weeks. The same kid who'd laughed at my rusted-out truck outside the wedding glanced up and didn't recognize me now. Nice ride, ma'am, he said. I slid him a 5. Thanks. Kept walking. The town car idled at the curb. Nora sat inside, finishing a bottle of water, thumb skimming texts. She looked up as I climbed in. You crushed it, I said. I know, she said, then smiled. But thanks. We eased into campus traffic. Quiet at first. You didn't have to do all this, I said, watching the buildings drift by. You're right, she said, eyes still on the road. I didn't. I wanted to. We hit a red at the edge of campus. That's when I saw it. A billboard hanging over the gas station where we used to count quarters at the pump. White letters on a navy field. Integrity is inherited. Ward Health Equity Fund. No fancy graphics. Just words. I leaned back, closed my eyes. Not revenge, resolution. That's what it felt like. Would you have forgiven Caleb if you were in Nora's shoes? Drop your answer below. And if this story kept you hooked, like and subscribe for more.